The story begins in a world overflowing with a unique power. They call it Rune Arts, a sacred force that has existed since the dawn of humanity. Some are born chosen, gifted with these supernatural abilities. It is unfair. These few became the masters of this world. Ancient nations praise Rune Arts as a divine blessing, a miracle sent down from the heavens above. Yet among all these arts, there is one that stands apart. One labeled a curse, the ASURA Rune. Scene shifts to a boy named Van, his body broken. Wounds cover him, and arrows are embedded deep in his flesh. He is desperate, running for his life from a pack of bandits. They finally leave him there in a truly pathetic state, screaming at Van to get lost and never look back. Never dare to show his face to them again. To them, Van is just a monster wearing a human mask. Van keeps pushing forward, gasping for air with every heavy step. He collapses, face down into the freezing snow. Ever since humanity received the blessing of Rune Arts, those destined to carry the cursed rune always suffer the same. A truly tragic fate. And this time, Van is the unlucky soul forced to carry that heavy, agonizing burden. Just as he loses consciousness, a group of kind strangers approaches. They panic, horrified by the severity of his wounds. His vision begins to fade into darkness, but an old man stands over him, immediately giving orders. He tells two girls to use their magic now. The girls quickly channel green mana energy, pushing it into Van's body, fighting to save his life. 7 years pass since that day. Now villagers are standing their ground, scolding a group of bandits. They refuse to be pushed around, insisting they aren't, hiding anyone here who possesses the ASURA Rune. The bandits finally admit defeat and turn to leave, walking away from those old folks before they have to report back to their master. Before a mysterious man in a dark cloak, the bandits kneel. They report that they have searched everywhere they could, but they found not a single user of high-level rune arts, let alone the owner of the ASURA Rune. The robed man then points a greasy, filthy finger at one of the bald bandits, commanding him to step forward. The man obeys the order, but out of nowhere, he is stabbed. His body collapses instantly. Something here is seriously wrong. The cloaked figure stands tall, looking down at his terrified subordinate. He scoffs. It is impossible, he says, for low-level trash without mana to track them, especially to find their target. He raises a hand, emphasizing his point with chilling arrogance. Unlike those fools, he can smell the stench of the ASURA's destruction, even from this distance. Meanwhile, after the bandits finally clear out of the village, a voice calls out. It tells Finn and Linda that it is safe to come out now. Both of them emerge cautiously from behind a large, gnarled tree. Finn immediately apologizes to the old man for all the trouble caused. He feels terrible for involving the man and the entire village. But the old man doesn't seem worried at all. His wife smiles. She even pulls them into a warm, comforting embrace. She teases them, laughing that Finn and Linda always hide away in that spot, just wasting their time out there. Linda giggles and admits that Finn actually really loves that place. It is his go-to spot. Finn explains that this specific location is where he was saved 7 years ago. It is only natural that it became his favorite place in the whole village. The old man continues to tease Finn, lighthearted and full of life. The others burst into laughter, the tension finally fading away. The old man turns to his wife, his expression shifting to something more serious. He asks her about the wedding arrangements. His wife replies that everything will begin once the sun sets. That answer sets the whole group off, cheering with pure joy. Finally, the sun dips below the horizon and the wedding celebration erupts. Everyone gathers around a massive, roaring bonfire. Finn stands there looking incredibly nervous for his big day. Linda, on the other hand, looks radiant and absolutely thrilled. It is as if this is the happiest day of her entire life. The old man happily announces them as husband and wife. He motions for both of them to say a few words to the crowd. Linda doesn't hesitate for a second. She loudly declares that she will save all of Fan's tears for herself, until he even forgets how to cry. The crowd roars, cheering wildly at her sweet, bold promise. Then it is Fan's turn, but his voice drops, turning somber. He apologizes again for all the trouble he has brought to them, especially after the terrifying incident with those bandits. He confesses that his life has always been shadowed by disaster. Everywhere he goes, misfortune seems to follow him, trailing behind like a curse. Despair has always been his only constant companion. He never dared to hope for a new beginning or a better life. Fan looks at them, his voice shaking. If they hadn't saved him back then, he knows for a fact that he would have been dead a long time ago. With deep sorrow, he says he isn't even sure if he belongs. He doesn't know if someone cursed like him should even exist, let alone live here in this village. Fan's gloomy words stop cold when Linda suddenly throws a punch. She hits him square in the face, hard. Linda holds her hand high, voice ringing out with iron certainty. If they were actually scared of him, she tells him, they never would have gone through the trouble of saving his life 7 years ago. Linda keeps going since the very first time they met. Sure, she felt a little worried, but when the great crisis hit, when disaster struck, Finn stood at the front and protected everyone. That was the moment Linda and the whole village made a choice. They wouldn't worry about his curse ever again. If another disaster comes, they are going to face it together, just like they did before, standing side by side. The villagers roar in agreement, promising to protect their hero with their own lives. They demand he stop being so sad. Linda's mother steps in. She gently places a hand on both their shoulders, urging them to finish the ceremony. Fan and Linda lock eyes, pouring out their love for each other. They seal it with a tender kiss. But in the middle of this joy, a mysterious figure in the crowd watches, and now he begins to shift. He sheds his disguise, revealing himself as that insane man in the dark cloak. He sneers, mocking them, saying that beautiful sight almost made him cry. Instantly, a massive explosion rips through the entire wedding venue. Chaos, destruction. Then, Finn slowly regains consciousness. He opens his eyes and sees bodies scattered everywhere around him. He screams in pure shock, scrambling backward in a blind, desperate panic. His mind is breaking. He keeps asking himself what the hell is happening. Fun realizes with horror he is the only one left standing. Everyone else is gone, even Linda's parents. All of them butchered in cold blood. Fan can't process it. He refuses to believe what he is seeing. And right then, the insane man in the dark cloak steps out from behind. A sudden strike hits Fan with brutal force, sending him flying. His body slams into the hard earth and rolls. He crashes right into the trunk of a tree. The man walks toward him, slowly, dragging Linda by her hair. A terrifying, pitch-black aura leaks from him, suffocating the air. He just laughs and says he is genuinely curious to see what Fan does now. His body slams into the dirt, tumbling hard, and then he crashes straight into a tree trunk. The man drags Linda by her hair, closing the distance. He walks slowly, his entire body radiating this dark, terrifying aura, mocking her as he says he is curious. Is the ASURA Rune suddenly going to awaken? A furious fan demands to know why the man did this, but his enemy just answers calmly. Fan really does not need to overthink it. He explains someone out there wants the ASURA Rune, badly enough to want to own it completely. To him, a survivor is always just a problem. That is the only logical reason he decided to blow them all up. Just like that, everyone gone at once. The madman then mocks Fan, pretending to care. He asks if this feels too personal, then adds that he is only following orders. So Fan really should not hold a grudge against him. Arrogantly, the man flaunts his power. He tells Fan this place is a prison, a dimensional trap prepared just for him. The flow of time here, it does not move like the real world. He finished by saying he might let Fan out eventually, when the time is right. Fan just needs to be patient though he is not even sure when that will be. While still grabbing Linda by the hair, the girl gives Fan a gentle smile. Fan struggles hard to break free from the trap, crying helplessly as he watches Linda held captive. Fan gets trapped inside a massive cocoon. Then he is dragged off to a strange new world. When he finally wakes up, he finds himself lying on a towering stone altar, just lying there in the dark. Fan tries to convince himself this is not because of the rune, but doubt creeps in. Is his fate tied to this from birth? Every bit of power he has only brings pain, just endless destruction. Fan wonders if he had just accepted himself sooner, could he have saved his family? Overwhelmed by total despair, he wishes things could have been different. He just wanted to live a normal life. But in the end, Fan concludes the truth. His own selfish desires brought this catastrophe. He led everyone he loved to their deaths. Silently, he begs the fallen villagers for one thing: never forgive him for what happened. Fan lies there in complete shock, his mind racing, haunted by the question, do divine beings actually exist? And if they are real, why do they allow such cruel fate? Watching life crumble like this, he can't help but wonder. He shoves those thoughts aside, feeling only raw, crushing pain, the kind that makes him want to just stop existing. Slowly, his eyes drift shut, begging that familiar voice inside. That voice screaming within his own head. He prays to die right then, to finally end the misery. But in his dream, Linda appears, gently convincing him otherwise, telling him none of this is his fault, that she loves him. Always. Van bolts awake, eyes wide, chest heaving. He jumps up, starts muttering to himself, voice trembling, insisting that every single bit of this is entirely his fault. He berates himself for even thinking about taking the easy way out, screaming that he has no right to end his life like a coward. Van shouts it over and over. He won't die today. Not now, because there is something much bigger waiting. A task he has to finish, no matter the cost. He makes it clear, revenge has to come first, before he ever dares to face death. The legend of the ASURA RUNE, the bringer of ruin and death. It flashes in his mind, but Van doesn't care anymore. Nothing, not even this curse, is worse than what he's lost, and he refuses to break. He recalls that madman talking about someone craving his rune. Van swears he will personally deliver the bitterness of that rune, directly to the one who wants it so badly. He is going to show them true destruction. Memories of his loved ones flash before his eyes. Van whispers in his heart, just wait a little longer. I will avenge every single one of you. But first things first, he has to claw his way out of this hellish prison. Right on cue, the creatures of this dimension swarm him, feeding on his trauma and pain, closing in for the kill. But Van stands tall, etched in his soul. Whether it takes 10 years or 10,000 years, he will hunt down the demon that ruined his life. Van spends years battling these monsters in the dark, harvesting strength from every single brutal clash. Hundreds of years pass, and he keeps walking the path of the ASURA RUNE, unaware of the nightmare. A terrifying power waiting just beneath the surface to wake. Even after 600 years of non-stop fighting, his resolve never fades, fueled by the eternal fire of vengeance. Deep down inside, he's holding onto something. Fan keeps digging for the hidden secrets behind the ASURA RUNE. The ASURA. Almost 1,000 years locked away in that dark dimensional prison, buried under despair, suffering through absolute torment. Even in that endless agony, his resolve remains unbreakable. Not a single crack in his will. In this final test, Fan lunges with everything he has left, charging straight at the titan standing in his way. The creature just slams its massive hands together, crushing him. Like a bug, Fan's body is completely shattered. Blood drips from the giant's grip before he's tossed aside. He hits the floor, unconscious after a millennium of pure pain. In the darkness, Fan dreams of Linda sitting on a quiet hill. She tells him she wants to marry him, to build a home. somewhere they can start a family together. She speaks of her dream to have children with him, a warm house, a place where he can always come back to. Linda stands up, turns, and gives him a gentle, fading smile. She whispers that all she ever wanted was to be by his side, just to live right next to him from the very beginning. In that moment of utter weakness, Fun finally snaps back. The true power of the ASURA RUNE awakens deep inside him. From his broken body, demonic energy starts spiraling, twisting everything. Suddenly, a massive blast shakes the entire place to its core. It's deafening. From within the flames, a terrifying figure emerges, the Lord of Ruin. Fan is disoriented, but he instinctively calls forth spectral armor. Yet, deep in his heart, he's hit with a wave of regret, a bitter disappointment. He knows if this power had awakened just one day sooner, on that tragic day, he wouldn't have had to watch his family get slaughtered. Right in front of his eyes, helpless to stop it. Finn glares at the towering monster, wondering if this is the truth. Is this the reality he has to face now? Without a shred of doubt left, he charges forward. One brutal, heavy punch from Finn sends the beast flying back. It crashes into the wall with a sickening impact. But he isn't finished yet. He leaps high into the air, palm glowing with pure, dark energy. He unleashes his ultimate move. Destruction Fist, slamming directly into the giant's skull. That massive head. A violent explosion rips through the area, deafening and absolute. The scene shifts to a deep, dark forest. A pack of bandits has a woman cornered, nowhere to run. She's begging them, swearing she doesn't have a single cent to her name. But the bandit leader, he doesn't care. He tells her cold if there's no money, he's taking her organs instead. Just as those words leave his mouth, Finn appears out of thin air. He just asks one thing, what year is it? The leader is totally thrown off. He rests a hand on Fan's head and mutters that it is the year 1500. That answer hits Fan hard. Only 5 years have passed since his past life. A million thoughts race through his head. Meanwhile, one of the goons sneaks up from behind, weapon raised high, ready to smash Fan's skull in. On the leader's signal, he swings that blade with everything he has. But Fan, he doesn't even flinch. Watch this, the whole group just freezes. They can't even process what they're seeing. Fan slowly looks up, eyes burning with a threat. Then he moves. In a heartbeat, he tears through the entire group of bandits. One by one. It's effortless. It's like a college kid picking a fight with some elementary schoolers. With his new power, he wipes out every last one of them. Only one bandit is left standing, completely paralyzed by the slaughter. Fan turns to him with this twisted, chilling smile. He asks his question. The Etan continent has been built on the power of Rune Arts since ancient times. Among all the kingdoms, the Zoe Empire stands as the strongest in history. They dominated the continent for years, all thanks to their massive military. Finn shows the bandit a picture. He demands to know if the mage in the drawing wears a Zoe royal uniform. The bandit isn't about to lie. Not when he's hanging upside down, completely at Fan's mercy. As Fan pushes for more answers, the bandit starts to crack. Just curious about the true power of those Rune Arts fragments. Among all the kingdoms out there, one stands above the rest. Zoe, the strongest empire in the history of the Etan lands. They dominated the continent for years, thanks to their brutal military. Fan then turns to the bandit, pointing at a picture. He demands to know if the mage shown is truly wearing the uniform. The Zoe royal family's crest, clear as day on their gear. The bandit swears he is not lying, not with his life on the line. Hanging upside down like that, he is completely helpless. And he is well aware that he is at Fan's total mercy now. As Fan presses for more answers, the bandit starts to crack. 5 years ago, their leader Dagog got a direct call. A mercenary named Kasorik reached out with a strange offer. He claimed to represent someone incredibly powerful. The mission was simple enough. Find a specific person. And while they were at it, burned down a few villages. In exchange, they were promised a massive payout. The bandits didn't think twice and took the job. They had no idea the request came from the royal mage, Zoe. So they moved in, burning those villages until nothing was left. Not a single building remained, just scorched earth. The bandit spills every detail, even the horrific part. They had to burn all the bodies before getting paid. That purple-haired mage was the one who signed the checks. Van interrupts, asking if an orange-haired girl was among them. The bandit nods, clearly remembering the girl burning with the rest. He even sounds regretful, which is just insane to hear. He says it was a waste because she could have sold for a fortune. He doesn't even finish that sentence. Van snaps. He gives the guy some free, violent plastic surgery. One massive punch, right to the face, shattering everything. Later on, up in the Deal Mountains, a group of bandits is dragging a line of slaves. One bandit says the kids look fresh, but another complains they're stubborn. A third one chimes in, stubborn kids actually sell for more. Suddenly, a knock at their base gate. A guard peeks out and sees the pale, lifeless face of his own teammate. He asks why his partner is taking so long to report back. The gate swings open, and that head just hits the dirt. Look out, here is where the slaughter begins. A single, brutal strike takes out the guard instantly. Another guard tries to fight back, swinging his club at Van. But Van just shrugs it off. He barely has to dodge. They are too stubborn. One of the other bandits chimes in. But watch this, he says the energetic ones sell for way more, which means the whole operation stays profitable for them. Suddenly, a sharp knocking echoes at the base gates. A guard peeks out and sees the pale, soulless face of his partner. He asks why his friend is taking so long out there. But the moment the gate swings open, the head drops. It hits the ground with a sickening thud. In a blink, a crushing blow connects. That poor guard is dead before he even hits the floor. A second guard tries to fight back, swinging his club hard, aiming straight for Fan's skull. But Fan just dodges, moving with almost zero effort. Then he counters with a lethal strike that absolutely shatters him. Fan drags the head and body right in front of the other bandits. They stare, completely frozen, shocked by the sudden carnage. He demands an audience with their leader, right now. As the bandits ready their weapons, the boss finally steps out. It is Daigle himself, and he immediately orders his men to stand down. They hesitate, but he cuts them off, back away. One bandit argues they can take this outsider down easily. Daigle warns them, his voice cold. If they push this, they die for nothing. The guy standing in front of them isn't some random fighter. He is a mage born with Rune Arts, just like Daigle. Daigle demands to know what Fan is actually looking for here. Fan doesn't hesitate. Where is the mercenary from Zoe Kingdom? Kasorik. That name clearly hits a nerve, and Daigle asks what kind of intel he wants. Fan ignores the question, his tone turning sharp and dangerous. Tell me where Kasorik is, he commands. That is the only way you survive this encounter. Daigle seems to consider it, but then, suddenly, he lashes out. A surprise punch, aimed to take Fan out in one clean move. Fan's body is sent flying backward from the impact. Daigle glares with pure murderous intent, spitting that Fan is a liar. He vows to end this intruder's life right here and now. Daigle's body begins to shift, his skin plating over with razor-sharp blades. He is a user of the Rune of Blade. Fan just sighs. He realizes he is never getting a straight answer from a guy like this. He launches himself at Daigle, slamming a fist deep into his gut. Then he unleashes a flurry of relentless, heavy strikes. Daigle groans, scrambling to fight back, but Fan is too fast. He dances through the attacks, moving like a seasoned pro. Now watch this, Daigle spins, turning into a vortex of blades. He lets loose a deadly rain of steel, carving through everything. Daigle screams that he is done holding back. He pushes every single blade out from his skin to finish this. But Fan charges straight through the storm without flinching. Not even a scratch. Daigle watches in total disbelief, wondering if the guy even feels pain. Fan just lets out a small laugh. Pathetic, he mutters, all that flash, and nothing to show for it. Daigel growls, swearing he won't hold back anymore. He erupts, sharp blades flying out from deep within his body. Fan walks right through the storm of steel without flinching. Not a single scratch on him. The bandit looks on, terrified, wondering if Finn even feels pain. Fan just gives a dark chuckle, dismissing the question. Just a minor scratch. He steps forward, ready to take on Daigel. The enemy immediately preps another attack, manifesting a giant fist right out of his sword blade to finish this. Fan just shrugs. He figures that blow would barely scrape his skin compared to the agony. In the void dimension he survived. This wound is just too shallow. With controlled rage, Fan throws a crushing counterpunch. To Rune Arts collide, an impact of force that simply couldn't be stopped. But Daigel can't keep up. His body gets dragged away by the sheer power of Fan's fist. The shockwave just keeps staring through the surroundings. Daigel's body is sent flying, vanishing into the edge of the sky. One problem down, Fan turns toward the remaining bandits, declaring he is picking up exactly where he left off. By dusk, Fan has taken every last one of them down. The final survivor spills the info that Chazarek is hiding out in the Nordia kingdom. The battered bandit begs for the mercy Fan supposedly promised, but Fan just retorts he never made any such promise. The bandit gets furious, but Fan calls it a joke, even getting the guy to laugh along. Then, before the bandit realizes, a light tap from Fan is enough to end his life. Fan asserts that the idea of leaving even one enemy alive is just a bad joke. They all have to face destruction. That night, Fan reflects he could have stormed the Zoe kingdom if he wanted, but since he doesn't fully trust the bandits' intel, the only way is to hunt down Chazarek personally and confirm his gut feeling. Fan stares at his own creation, a totem stacked high with bandit corpses. He whispers to his uncle, aunt, and Linda, asking them to accept this offering of vengeance. Then he tosses a torch, burning the totem down like a barbarian, and walks away with firm resolve toward Nordia Kingdom. A few days later, Fan finally arrives. He finally arrives at the kingdom of Nordia, right on the busy main street of the guild. He just casually punches a guy in the face. For him, a quick morning hit like that is just part of a healthy routine. The poor guy drops to his knees, stammering out the name he was desperate for. He tells Ben that the person he is hunting is named Anna Dalton, then mocks him, tells the guy he really should have just said that from the start. Then he wouldn't have had to catch a fist to the face. He tosses a quick thanks for the info, acting like it's no big deal. Just keeps walking, leaving his latest victim crumpled on the ground behind him. Deep down, Vin knows he has to figure out exactly who this Anna Dalton really is. He can't afford to waste even a single second. Not after yesterday. That was all the proof he needed. His power is starting to lash out, totally beyond his control. It's tearing through him, forcing him to scream out in pure agony. He's losing his grip, barely holding onto his own sanity. That magical energy is pushing him right to the edge of madness. It never happened back in the void dimension, but now he knows why. His mana isn't just magic. It is made of mysterious, invisible particles. They are scattered everywhere, floating all across the entire universe. Humans absorb this mana into their own bodies. That is how they manifest those Rune Arts abilities. The world calls these people sorcerers. Basically, anyone who can store that raw mana inside them is a sorcerer. But watch this, here is where it gets dangerous. If that mana flows wild and uncontrolled, the owner can literally explode from the inside out. That is exactly why Vin has to seal his unstable power right now, before everything turns into an absolute disaster. With every ounce of willpower he has left, he channels it. He releases that excess energy in one massive, shattering blast. Finally, the pressure starts to fade, and he hits the ground. Panting, Van fights to get back up, admitting he almost died for nothing. Most of his power is sealed away now. He can only tap into a tiny, remaining fraction of that mana. But even then, if he gets reckless and uses too much, the consequences won't stop at just some singed hair. Getting to the bottom of these power surges is more important than anything. He's so lost in thought that he accidentally slams right into someone. Some massive, giant-sized guy stands there, blocking the path. Van thinks the guy is deaf and just tells him to move out of the way. But the giant looks down and warns him that Miss Anna is busy. Power like this matters way more than anything else right now. Lost in his thoughts, Fun accidentally bumps into someone. A massive mountain of a man who looks like a giant. Thinking the guy is deaf, Fun snaps at him to move. But the giant warns him Lady Anna is currently watching. Using the space, so Fan tells him he better back off. Right now. Fan stares up at the giant, looking him dead in the eye. He says the guy should have mentioned that from the start. After all, he is currently hunting for Miss Anna Young. Without wasting a single breath, Fan unleashes a heavy punch. It sends the massive guy crashing hard into the dirt. Fan then apologizes, telling him to get some real rest before he keeps on moving forward. Inside the building, 3 men dressed all in white block his path, demanding to know who Fan really is. They try to kick him out right then and there, but Fan demands answers about the mercenary group. Kasoruk. A woman's voice echoes out from nowhere, warning him that Fan will die right there if he keeps saying that name. Fan stands his ground, insisting the woman hand over every single detail about Kasoruk. She just laughs, clearly mocking his nerve. Then she commands her men to tear Fan apart and keep his mouth as a trophy. Anna Dalton is the #1 information broker. In the Nordia Kingdom's black market, the 3 men suddenly start glowing, shifting into wolf men monsters, with way more eyes staring out than they ever could have needed. They rush straight at Fan, but he stays calm, muttering that he really did not want to use violence just to get some answers. But as one wolf lunges, Fan shifts like a blur and takes it down easily, grumbling that people always have to make everything so difficult. Right then, another attack comes at him, but Fan dodges casually, letting the enemy smash into the wall. With a smooth, fluid motion, he turns and pulls a backflip to create some space. Then he drops back into a defensive stance. Meanwhile, the 2 remaining monsters stand there, confused by his insane agility. Fan suddenly shoots forward and lands a crushing blow. The strike pierces right through the wolf men and shatters the wall behind them. After that, Fan relaxes his body just a bit and asks Anna if she plans on talking things out peacefully now. Anna admits that watching this has been quite entertaining. It comes out that Van is actually a sorcerer. But Anna drops the bomb. Kasoruk isn't there anymore. Van demands to know where the mercenary went. Anna just smirks. She isn't giving up any info. Not without getting paid anyway. Van snaps back, demanding her price right then and there. That catches Anna completely off guard. Since, Van just finished wiping out her crew. Van insists he's no cold-blooded killer. It was purely self-defense. He offers to pay up for the intel. She stays calm, naming her price 10,000 gold coins. That hits him like a truck. He's stunned. That is a ridiculous amount of money. Anna doesn't budge, though she isn't handing it out for free. Van turns away, telling her to just wait for him. She watches him, genuinely curious where he'll pull that cash from. She has to ask, why is he so obsessed with this guy? Then she takes a wild guess. Did the mercenary kill his family? Van's tone shifts instantly. He warns her to keep her nose out of his business, or that pretty face of hers might end up split in two. But that threat, it doesn't even make her blink. She keeps smiling, teasing him about how scary he sounds. Then walks off, heading straight to the mercenary guild. He needs to get his registration sorted. The receptionist explains how things work here. Veterans get first dibs on missions, so he'll be waiting a while. Van crosses his arms, frustrated. This is going to take way longer than he planned. He starts wondering if there's a faster way to make bank. For a split second, he considers shaking down Anna for info, but he realizes she isn't just some random civilian. And making unnecessary enemies is just asking for trouble. Then he remembers his aunt's advice. Always work for your money, stay honest. He's stuck in his own head, weighing his options. But his train of thought snaps. A woman just walked in. Fan considers threatening Anna to get the information he needs. Then he stops, realizing she is clearly not some commoner. No point in making unnecessary enemies right now. He remembers his aunt's advice, echoing in his head. Always work honestly for your money, she used to tell him. But his train of thought snaps when a woman arrives on the scene. Fan walks up to the receptionist, asking to hire a rookie mercenary. That immediately grabs the attention of a mysterious woman nearby. The receptionist points Finn out, confirming he just registered as one. They exchange a few quick words before she lowers her hood. She starts explaining exactly what she needs. This is Lenardi, and she bluntly tells Finn he needs to take responsibility for her, just for one night. The request leaves both Finn and the receptionist completely stunned. Finn just turns away, ready to walk out. The receptionist tries to step in, warning her to watch it. She tells her this place isn't for those kinds of services. The woman quickly clarifies she is actually looking for a bodyguard. But Finn keeps walking, calm as ever, like he could not care less. She starts to panic, calling out and begging him to just listen. Right then, a massive, muscular guy steps up to Lenardi. He offers to take the job, grinning as he asks about the pay. She reveals the price, 10,000 gold coins. Fan stops dead in his tracks. That number caught his attention. Lenardi explains she cannot afford a famous mercenary like this guy. But he keeps pushing, demanding she reconsider his offer. He acts arrogant, insisting he is way better than some kid. Then he grabs her arm by force, and Lenardi screams at him to let go. That only makes the big guy angrier. He growls that she should be grateful he is even helping her. Before he can take it any further, Fan is already standing right beside him. He tells him to let go, calmly. The bald guy looks confused. Fan stares him down with a cold, piercing gaze. He warns him to get his filthy hands off his future gold mine. Or else, Fan will mess up his face so bad that even his own mother would not recognize him. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a village is being pillaged by bandits. She's dirty, beaten down, yet still trying to reach out for help. Before she can take another step, Fan is already standing there, right at her side. Calmly, he tells the thug to let her go. The bald man looks lost. Fan's gaze turns ice cold, and he repeats the order. He warns the guy to pull those filthy fingers away. Get them off his potential gold mine right now, or he'll wreck that face until his own mother can't recognize him. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a village is being pillaged by bandits. The rookie mercenary he hired is skilled, fitting the job perfectly. Fan just shrugs it off, finding it a waste of a human seat. That strike was just a warning. Van knows something worse is coming. They report back to their leader, Merkel. The farmers' homes didn't yield much loot, so they suggest a darker path, harvesting organs, just to make sure they still turn a profit. Merkel tells them they're free to do whatever they want, but he wants an update on their main objective, kidnapping the lion daughter. One of his lackeys steps forward. He confirms the mission is on track and Merkel orders the 3 best men prepped for tomorrow. The plan is set. Merkel points to a corpse lying right in front of him. He orders them to hang it up before they leave. His subordinate nods, promising to get those 3 men ready immediately. But before he can even finish his sentence, Merkel lifts his own follower into the air with dark magic. The lackey is terrified, frantic, asking what he did wrong. Merkel just smiles. He didn't do anything wrong. He's just unsatisfied with hanging only one body. He cold-bloodedly decides he'll dissect this follower in the exact same way he did the last one, then hang him right next to it, making it a perfect set. Back inside the guild building, Fan is enjoying some meat at his table. Lenardi, who just gave him his latest contract, sits nearby. She is deathly silent, her expression filled with pure nerves. She finally slams her fist on the table. Fan calmly asks if the food isn't to her liking. She screams that this meal is barely even fit for human consumption. Her face shows exactly how uncomfortable she is. She orders Fan to stop using the defeated mercenary as a human chair. Fan just asks in a relaxed tone if she wants to sit on his lap instead. She shouts a disgusted no, which clearly lets him down. Before letting the guy go, he kicks him hard. He warns that breathing trash not to dare touch his precious employer again. Lenardi stands right by his side. She screams for Fan to stop before the guy actually dies. The mercenary apologizes, terrified. But deep down, Lenardi is thrilled. This rookie mercenary she hired is incredibly skilled. He is exactly the kind of man she needs for this job. Fan just shrugs it off. It is a real shame about that human chair. Fan catches the sound of movement on his right, just as he turns. Chaos erupts. Fan blocks their incoming strikes with nothing but his fists. Suddenly, a bandit lunges from behind to grab Lenardi. Van deflects the blade, then delivers a brutal kick to the attacker. Things seem cozy enough, but she shifts the talk fast. Back to business again. She asks just how far this journey goes the trip. Lenardi planned since hiring Van as her personal guard. Lenardi explains she only needs Van to get her safe, right to the border of the Wana Kingdom. And to get there, they have to cross the woods. Van questions why anyone would pay 10,000 coins for a guard, and honestly, something feels off here. Something suspicious. Van suspects Lenardi is a runaway, or maybe the heir to some massive, powerful house. But Lenardi claims she is just the daughter of a rich man who spoils her with way too much gold. Van doesn't buy it for a second. Still, Lenardi adds, there is always the option to hire someone else. If Van feels like she is too suspicious to trust, Van shoots back with a sarcastic tone. No way he could be suspicious of his own boss, which just makes Lenardi snap. Van asks when they are leaving, and Lenardi says the sooner, the better. So Van suggests they leave right now. He doesn't want to waste his precious employer's time. The next day, the pair begins their long trek, cutting through the mountains. Lenardi thinks they are halfway there already, and wonders if she really needed a guard at all, since the trip has been so quiet and peaceful. But then, Van suddenly signals for her to stop and stay quiet. Lenardi asks what the problem is. Van says he senses mana from a magical beast. He listens close to the sound of footsteps. Bandits approaching. Van knows there are at least 4 of them, and one feels dangerous. Then Merkel appears, shouting that peeking is a bad habit, and unleashes a blast of energy straight at Van. Van deftly dodges that wave of mana. Meanwhile, Merkel spots Lenardi as the target and orders his men to capture her alive. Lenardi freezes, seeing the ruin from the blast. While Van realizes that attack was just the beginning, he sends that bandit flying crashing into the dirt. Before the dust settles, he dodges to more blades ahead of him. He scoops up Lenardi and leaps back to safety. His own wounds start knitting shut as he tells Lenardi to stay put. Whatever happens, stay behind him. Lenardi nods, silent and obedient. Van turns his attention back to the bandits, asking who they are. He even wonders aloud if they're just mindless quest NPCs. They demand he leave the kid and walk away if he wants to live. Van calmly replies that he'll only leave if they pay 10,000 gold. Pay up or get ready, and with that, the battle reignites. Van meets their rush with bare knuckles. They trade blow for blow, but Ven holds them back with ease. The bandits are starting to think he's just some random punk. Ven catches Lenardi, then leaps back, his wounds already healing fast. He tells Lenardi to stay right behind him, no matter what. Lenardi just nods, too stunned to even get a word out. Ven turns to the bandits, eyes narrowed. Who are you guys? He even asks if they are just some low-level filler NPCs. The bandits don't like that one bit. Drop the kid, they demand. Walk away right now if you want to make it out alive. Ven keeps it cool. Sure, he'll leave for 10,000 gold coins. That price tag, it snaps the tension. The fight explodes again. Watch this. Ven meets their charge head-on, fists flying in a blur. It is pure chaos. Strikes landing, blocks shifting, neither side giving an inch. Ven holds his own, effortlessly weathering everything they throw at him. The bandits start laughing. They think he is just some naive punk. Big mistake. He flares his mana, a raw surge of pure power. Alongside Mongo, he tears through their line like it is nothing. Acting all high and mighty, clearly not some basic rune artist. Not what they were expecting at all. But Ven finally reveals the truth. He was just playing along. He explains he doesn't need to hold back anymore. Not a single second longer. After politely calling them idiots, he moves. Ven slips right past their guard, launching a flurry of hits. A rapid-fire barrage finished with one heavy punch. A massive blow that triggers a shockwave of energy. As the dust settles, only 2 pairs of shoes remain. Exactly where those bandits were standing a moment ago. Ven calls the whole group a bunch of useless clowns. Meanwhile, Lenardi is stunned to see a kid like this. Even younger than himself, yet this incredibly tough. If his own father saw this fight go down, the man would be absolutely floored with pure amazement. But suddenly, Markel speaks up again from the shadows, explaining that rune arts are often capable of so much more. They can feel each other's mana pulsing in the air. That raw output, that's the true measure of a sorcerer's power. Ven mocks him, teasing that he thought the monster had already run off. After all, it had been quiet for such a long, long time. Merkel sneers, questioning how some brat could even match his own strength. Sure, Ven was born with talent, but he's still just a specimen. A specimen to be dissected. Merkel wants to see what's inside. People like Ven always have such perfect, fascinating organs. Now it's clear Merkel is a twisted anatomy expert leading a criminal ring. Trafficking, organ theft, every nightmare crime you can imagine. The monster demands Lenardi, offering a deal. Give her up, and he'll dissect Ven like a gentleman, painless. Ven doesn't even hesitate. He rejects the offer right to his face. Merkel loses it. He erupts, unleashing a massive blast of energy. Ven just stands there, calm. He asks Lenardi a sudden question. Was she really lying about being the daughter of a common merchant? Before she can even answer, Ven grabs her from behind. He shoves her forward, right into the path of that incoming energy. It's like she's nothing but a living shield to him. Even with her beautiful face, Lenardi can only scream that he's heartless. Merkel is stunned, wondering what on earth is going on in Van's head. But that light from Merkel, it's relentless. It won't stop for anything. Once the blast clears, Lenardi is frozen, whispering for her mother. Both Merkel and Lenardi are screaming in pure, blinding rage. They're both asking the same thing. Has Van actually lost his mind? Merkel demands to know if Van is even really her bodyguard at all. Honestly, even Lenardi is left completely confused by his actions. Meanwhile, Van is locked in. He notices something vital. Merkel can pivot his attacks in a heartbeat. He's a skilled sorcerer. Van quickly realizes the truth behind this monster's objective. Merkel just wants to capture Lenardi alive. Van thinks it's ridiculous. He's never going to let that happen. He tells Lenardi straight up. He's letting her little lie slide, just for this one time. Markel demands to know, is Van really just the girl's guard? Even Lenardi feels totally lost, confused by the whole situation. Meanwhile, Van gets distracted for just a split second. He notices Markel shifting his attack trajectory in an instant, which proves one thing: he is a highly skilled sorcerer. Van immediately concludes that the monster has one goal: catching Lenardi alive, which is just plain ridiculous, because Van is not going to let that happen, not today. No chance. Van tells Lenardi he will let the small eye slide for now, just this once. Lenardi is still fuming, completely losing it after almost getting killed by him just moments ago. Van casually rests a hand on Lenardi's shoulder, telling him he's about to be tossed like a baseball, which makes Lenardi freak out. Van calms him down. Stay relaxed, you won't die. Then grabs his cloak. Van starts sprinting hard, building up all that momentum. In a flash, Van launches Lenardi into the air, just like a pro pitcher on the mound. Merkel screams out, demanding to know where. Van is taking the girl. Merkel dashes forward at full speed, but Van is already one step ahead. Van moves with insane agility, grabbing the monster's leg, while gathering raw energy into his other fist. Getting ready for the next hit, Van slams his fist right into the monster's face while dodging every counter. He closes the combo with one explosive strike that smashes directly into Merkel's gut. Merkel, the monster leader, stumbles back a few steps, then he starts laughing, and that's when Van realizes something is seriously wrong here. He senses that even though his strikes are landing, something is completely absorbing the force of his blows. Merkel tenses his muscles, growling that he'll crush Van first before finally dealing with Lenardi. Merkel uses telekinesis rune arts, manipulating physical objects through sheer mana control. The monster raises a hand that starts glowing with light, warning Van to brace for a massive shockwave. This telekinesis rune lets him release all his stored power in one single devastating blast. And just like that, the attack is unleashed. But Van dodges at the very last second. Merkel charges ahead, forcing Van into a purely defensive stance. Van immediately sees how that rune drastically boosts his close combat abilities. Van stiffens his whole body, pushing forward to break through, while weaving past every single strike coming his way. Merkel fires off another explosion, but Van barely sidesteps it before countering with a heavy punch to the monster's body. But Merkel shields himself with telekinetic energy, forcing Van to back off and keep his distance. Van's frustration is boiling over now, especially since, as Merkel keeps mocking him, the monster claims that, even though they have the same amount of mana, the difference in skill between them is so vast that it makes Van completely helpless. Merkel then taunts that Van was only paid 10,000 gold coins by Lenardi. He laughs out loud, calling that pay mere pocket change, since he could get the same amount just by looting to civilian homes. That comment makes Van snap, and he asks about the villages that were pillaged, and Merkel proudly lists every crime he has committed, from massacres to enslavement and looting that brought him massive profits. Merkel then offers Van a chance to join his side and asks if the offer sounds tempting. Hearing that, Van just laughs out loud for no clear reason. Merkel feels sure his judgment of Van is never wrong, but Van quickly corrects him. He says that his reason for laughing is just how pathetic he feels. For talking seriously with a monster, Van grabs his war horse and adds that just thinking about it is already making him incredibly angry. So he has decided to tear Merkel apart. Bit by bit, Merkel mocks him for being a fool for throwing away a golden opportunity. But Van is done listening. He lunges forward with a barrage of relentless attacks. Merkel keeps mocking him, calling Van insane for trying to break through his defenses. But Van does not care. He closes the gap and rains down blow after blow onto the monster's telekinetic energy barrier. Van does not stop. And after a strike that felt like 1,000 hits, the shield finally shatters into pieces. Merkel is stunned, barely even processing what happened when Van instantly destroys his arm in a single strike, ripping it clean off, making the monster scream in pain. Van does not stop there. He keeps beating him without mercy until Merkel's body is sent flying back and creates a cloud of thick dust. Merkel, now furious, screams that he is no longer interested in Van's organs. He blames Van for all this chaos, then starts charging energy for an ultimate attack. He calls that strike the strike of blood. In a heartbeat, the quiet forest turns into a sea of chaos. A massive blast wipes out everything in its path, everything reduced to nothing but dust. But Merkel feels something is wrong, off. He shouts, convinced their power is matched. But then why? Why does his attack do absolutely nothing? Van stands dead calm, his aura pushed to the absolute limit. He takes that hit without even flinching, not once. He asks Merkel if he truly thought they were equal. Really? Van calls him a fool to his face. The monster freezes, stunned by the sheer presence of Van. His aura is extreme, like a predator ready to devour its prey. Now watch this. This is where the gap in their power shows. Merkel wonders where that terrifying mana even comes from. Before Merkel can move, Van says that is enough. He closes the distance in a blink of an eye. With a loud voice, he orders the monster to die. He activates his ultimate technique, the Destruction Fist. Merkel is helpless against that barrage of rapid strikes. Van punches right through him, tearing a massive hole. The fight ends instantly. A while later, Van cleans himself up. He wraps his wounded arm back up. Then he walks away calmly, leaving the rubble behind. As he leaves, Merkel's body glows with strange light. Then it explodes into a massive ball of fire. Van just mutters to himself. Maybe it is time he found his master again. Knowledge says runic power can coat the body in sharp blades. It can level the land itself. It can slice through mountains. It even pierces the barriers of space and time. This mysterious force does not follow natural laws at all. Among all rune powers, there is one called ASURA, the most dangerous force of all, bringing absolute ruin. And now with that power, Van is writing a new history. A new chapter for the Etun continent. The scene shifts back to the forest. Van finds Lenardi leaning against a tree, just resting. Van says he knew the girl would be fine. Perfectly fine. Lenardi just snaps, scolding him for being so reckless. Van crushes everything, his brutal strike barely missing the mark. He slams his fist into the tree trunk right behind Lenardi. Then he says it. He knows Lenardi is hiding something, some kind of dirty secret. But just as fast, Van cools down, waving it off. He claims he doesn't care about the details and demands his pay. Right then, Lenardi hands over a heavy bag. It's packed tight with gold coins. Van doesn't hesitate, turning his back to walk away. Lenardi calls out, making Van stop and look back. Confusion flashes across Van's face for a second. But Lenardi hesitates, pulling back her words instantly. She just mutters that it was nothing. Deep down, Lenardi is desperate to bring Van to her family. But she refuses to drag such a young warrior into a brutal war. The regret hits her, but she stays quiet. She makes her choice. She head back to her people alone. Some time passes. Van arrives at Anna's place and tosses the gold bag at her. Anna smirks, amused, saying she never doubted he would finish the job. Van isn't having it. He pushes her for the info he needs. But Anna stops him, saying she only take half the payment. Van stares at her, completely confused by the change. Anna admits she failed to track down Kasorak. That guy is like a ghost, nearly impossible to find. Still, she promises him every detail she has on him. She even has leads on people who might know where he went. Van snaps back. Don't waste time. Just tell him everything. Anna leans in, asking if he's heard of the mercenary guild called Taze. Taze is bad news, a group tied to every crime imaginable. Think planned assassinations and deep-level espionage. And guess who runs the whole show? Kisorik. Over the last 5 years, Taze has exploded in power. They even took down a small kingdom like it was nothing. That is exactly why finding Kisorik or their base is a nightmare. But watch closely, Anna isn't about to give up on the hunt yet. Does Vin know about the mercenary guild called Taze? Taze is a brutal group of mercs involved in everything. Major crimes, cold-blooded murder, even deep-cover espionage. And they are led directly by the ruthless Kisorik. In just 5 years, their power has grown way out of control. They even managed to conquer an entire kingdom with ease. That is exactly why it is so difficult to track down. Neither Kisorik nor the main Taze base can be found. Still, Anna insists that she is not giving up yet. Just like that. And just like that, she manages to track down a high-ranking guild official. Anna holds up a poster pointing directly at a face. A ruthless man, infamous as a contract killer who leaves no trace. He is a rune-concealing specialist, and he is deadly. He has never failed to complete a single hit. Fun realizes that if this man is part of the guild, then he must know exactly where Kisorik is hiding. Fan demands to know his location, and Anna reveals the truth. According to her intel, the man is likely in Valhilda. That is the capital city of the Bogra Kingdom. Meanwhile, back at the Merkel gang headquarters, pure chaos breaks out. A new threat has emerged, and the floor is already stained with blood. The entire base is littered with bodies, a sickening sight. A massacre has taken place here. A truly terrifying scene. A mysterious figure emerges, twin blades fused to his arms. He tears through Merkel's men, cutting them down one by one. Not a single soul manages to escape his blade. It is a one-sided slaughter. One of the survivors screams, demanding to know why they are being attacked. The figure replies, cold and detached, he is only following orders. He tells them the punishment is absolute. They fail to complete the mission assigned by Kisorik. They are paying the ultimate price for that mistake. The henchman snaps, shouting that it is not their fault. They were never warned that their target was protected by a monster. He even blames the assassin for Merkel's death. If the boss had not died, things would be different. The assassin offers a cold apology, his voice devoid of emotion. He admits that even they did not expect Merkel to fall, and certainly not to some unknown mercenary. Hearing this, the henchman loses it completely. He demands to know if they are all just being wiped out. Is this really the price for one stupid mistake? He yells that this has gone way too far. The assassin stays perfectly calm. He tells them this is nothing more than standard punishment. Just justice for low-level soldiers who failed. The henchman is not having it. He is done talking. He screams in rage, ordering his entire squad to attack. They rush forward, ready to kill or be killed. But they have no idea who they are dealing with. The assassin stands his ground, unfazed by their numbers. He is a touch rune user, and that makes him a true nightmare. She crafts a giant hand out of mana, freely shaping it. It shifts, growing larger with incredible speed. That massive hand clamps down, pinning the assassin in place. Watch this. The pressure is just too much to handle. As the other minions rush in from every single direction, the assassin whispers an apology, barely audible. Before anyone can touch him, his body vanishes into thin air. In a blink, he reappears right behind the leader. And without warning, he slices the man clean in two. Once the slaughter ends, another guy walks up, asking if it is done. The killer replies with a sharp, sarcastic edge. "Can you not see the body?" He sneers. "It is covered in blood. Check it yourself if you doubt me." The man takes him at his word. Then the killer tells him to just get lost. But before he leaves, the man drops a warning. The investigation into Merkel's killer has officially started. Apparently, the culprit has a black scar on his face, a mark running from his eye all the way down to his neck. Hearing that, the killer realizes his new target is the hero. He asks, "Anything else I should know?" The man heaps on fake praise, but the killer is unimpressed. Finally, he leaves with a promise to report to Kasarak. Now alone, the killer lights up a crumpled cigarette. He stands silently under the moonlight, thinking about that mercenary with the scarred face and neck. Meanwhile, Fan, the man with that exact scar, tells Anna something. He says the Bogra Empire is not far from where they are now. He finally asks for the name of the target he needs to hunt. Back at the scene, the killer sighs heavily. He knows his work is far from over. His real name is revealed Haxa. It is clear now, Fan and Haxa, to dangerous men. They have different goals, yet they are on a collision course. Soon, they will be forced to face one another. Elsewhere, two little kids stand trembling, cold sweat pouring down, pure terror in their eyes. Right in front of them, a giant, snake-like monster looms. Haxa is stunned. He never expected his strike to be held back. Fan did not just block it. He immediately counters with a punch that sends Haxa flying back. Fan stands tall now, ready for blood. He is finally facing Haxa, the opponent he has been waiting for. Before the real fight erupts, Haxa turns to his partner. He prepares to tell him exactly who it was that did this. A massive, terrifying beast blocks their path, eyes locked on them. It stares them down like it is ready to feast. The two kids are frozen, paralyzed by pure, unadulterated fear. They cannot move a muscle while the monster lets out a deafening roar. It raises a massive fist, ready to slam down and end them. Both of them right there on the spot. But before the blow lands, Ven appears out of thin air, floating above the ground like some kind of savior, right at the very last possible second. Without a second thought, Ven fires a laser, a direct hit. That thing lets out a piercing shriek of absolute agony. Its insides are torn apart right in front of the kids. They were inches away from death before he stepped in. The monster finally crashed to the ground, sliced clean in two. Dead just like that, in a truly pathetic end. Van touches down right in front of them, checking if they are okay. He asks how they are holding up after such a close call. Still shaking, they can barely get the words out. They thank him, eyes wide in shock at the raw power he just displayed. But Van cuts them off, warning that this area is crawling with monsters. It is crawling with them, and nowhere is safe here. He tells them they need to get out of this place, right now. Still, the kids feel like they owe him everything for saving them. They really want to find some way to repay Van for his kindness. They ask what they can do to help, but Van just turns them down. He is not looking for help from anyone. The white-haired kid tries one more time, offering him some food. He explains they actually run a shop not too far away. Van keeps his hood low, hiding his face, and refuses again. He is on a mission, hunting for one specific place, a very particular shop, and he cannot afford to be distracted. The white-haired kid introduces himself as Orphan, asking which shop Van needs. He is curious about what Van is actually searching for. Van finally answers he is looking for a place called Blue Night. He asks them if they happen to know where it is. Neither of them realizes it yet, but the answer is right in front of him. The very place Van is hunting for belongs to Orphan and his sister. It is their shop he has been looking for all this time. Magad, Orphan's sister, is confused why a guy like Van wants their place. Before Van can even speak, Orphan jumps in to explain things. He tells Van he is the head chef at that exact shop. Then he points to Magad, confirming she is his younger sister. Orphan asks for their savior's name, wanting to know who helped them. Van keeps it short, his face cold, simply saying his name is Van. With that, Orphan and Magad lead Van toward their shop. After a long trek, the group finally arrives at the outskirts. Standing right there, the Blue Night Tavern. They get a warm welcome from their older sister, Hasia. She has been waiting for them for a long, long time. Hasia looks genuinely shocked Orban and Magad are late. She's worried sick, asking if they're hurt. Orphan steps in, explaining they're actually fine. It's all thanks to Fan's help. Orphan introduces Fan to Hasia, making it clear the kid came all this way just to find their shop. Hasia welcomes him in, telling him to get comfortable. Time for a well-deserved rest. Fan looks around, still skeptical. They really run this place. Just them, without any help from adults. Orphan shakes his head. They aren't totally alone. Truth is, they're just staying under the tavern owner's care. Fan listens close as Orphan starts to open up. They aren't actually related, even if it looks like it. Everyone is from a different kingdom, all with dark pasts. Lily and Ain lost their parents in the war. As for Magat, his family was wiped out completely, slaughtered by mercenaries. Meanwhile, Hasia's whole village was crushed by monsters. They should have died years ago, honestly. But then, a man showed up to save and raise them. Fan asks about this mysterious uncle figure. Orphan explains he's the one who owns this tavern. The man is the heart of the place. Orphan asks Hasia where the guy is hiding. She shrugs, probably still asleep. Orphan rushes to the room, shouting for him to wake up. He's making a massive racket. Seriously annoyed now, he asks how long the guy will sleep. He pushes him, demanding he gets up right this second. Magat nearly died to a monster. The uncle finally bolts awake. He's frantic, checking if Orphan and Magat are all right. Orphan says they survived only because of a savior, someone really strong. The uncle is dying to meet this person. He heads downstairs with Orphan to see the guest. Orphan points to the hooded traveler. That's their guy. The uncle greets Fan with a friendly smile, offering thanks. He's truly grateful for the rescue. But Fan is suddenly locked on, eyes narrowing in interest. Because this uncle, he looks exactly like someone he's tracking. Fan finally realizes the truth. His uncle is Haxa, the infamous killer. The very man Fan was hunting all this time. Haxa just sits there, relaxed, not even bothering to hide who he is. The tension in the room, absolutely off the charts. Fan knows this tavern owner is legendary for his incredible cooking skills. He presses Haxa to show him what he can really do in the kitchen. Haxa refuses, claiming it is a bad time to disturb the kids. Fan pushes harder, demanding he cooks for him at the break of dawn. Haxa finally caves in, leaving Fan alone to wait for the sunrise. Before he exits, Haxa orders Orphan to show Fan to his room. He needs a moment to think. The gears are turning in his head. A new threat has emerged, someone with power equal to his own. Night falls, and Orphan leads Fan to his quarters to rest. As Orphan leaves, Fan calls out, tell them not to thank him. He insists he never intended to save any of them. Orphan just gives a simple, innocent smile in response. He tells Fan that his words sound exactly like his uncle. Fan goes silent, saying nothing, even though he knows the grim truth. But then, in the dead of night, the bedroom door creaks open. Haxa stands there, weapon drawn, ready to strike. He creeps forward in the shadows, aiming his blade right at Fan. But with one hand, Fan deflects the lethal blow like it is nothing. Haxa is stunned. He never expected his attack to be parried so easily. Fan does not stop there, landing a heavy blow that sends Haxa flying. Now Fan is on his feet, standing tall and ready for a real fight. He has been waiting for an opponent like this to show his face. Before the chaos erupts, Haxa alerts his partner through the shadows. The man who killed Merkel is right here in the tavern, he whispers. The mummy man demands Haxa summon him there immediately for backup. Haxa rejects the idea. He knows if Fan feels cornered, he will run. He would rather handle this beast on his own, and his partner agrees. Haxa is stunned. He never imagined his attack could be blocked just like that. Fan doesn't just parry him, he counters. He instantly throws a punch, sending Haxa flying backward through the air. Now at a distance, Fan rises to his feet, standing tall and ready. He's finally facing Haxa, the opponent he's been waiting for all this time. Before they clash, Haxa warns his partner about the person who restored their mana. The stranger who returned their energy, just look. The one who killed Merkel is back at his shop. His partner, the mummy man, hears the news. He urges Haxa to summon him there immediately. But Haxa shuts down that idea. He knows if Fen senses he's being surrounded, he'll just bolt. Haxa decides he'll handle Ven on his own. The mummy man finally agrees to let him go. Sticking to the plan, he keeps waiting for word from Haxa. Back on the battlefield, the tension is about to explode. Fen curses, spitting venom at Haxa for acting like a hero, pretending to be some kind of saint in front of these kids. He demands answers, desperate to find that bastard Kesaruk. Deep down, Haxa realizes Fen must know way too much already regarding Kesaruk, but he's not about to crack under pressure. Haxa stands his ground, voice cold, firm, and absolutely unshakable. Whatever business Fen has, it doesn't matter to him. He will never let Kesaruk's location slip out, not ever. Hearing that, Fen stops playing games and drops the peace act. He shifts his weight, dropping into a lethal combat stance, eyes locked on his target, intent on hacking Haxa apart, limb by limb, until there's nothing left of him. Haxa, though, offers one last chance to walk away. He calmly tells Fen to leave, right here, right now. If he turns back, Haxa will pretend he never saw him. But Fen just sneers, mocking him with a sharp laugh, daring to ask who the hell Haxa thinks he is, bossing him around like he's actually in control here. And just like that, Haxa has zero options left. He has to face this head-on and take the fight. He pulls out a scroll and ignites a complex magical seal. A glowing formation pulses to life beneath their feet. Sudden, blinding light erupts, completely swallowing Fen up. In a heartbeat, he's ripped away from the main battlefield, dropped into a cramped, suffocating cave with zero light. Just a deep, silent hole in the ground with no exit. Fen realizes what this is, a high-level magic trap. He has heard of this, the forbidden power of Rune Arts, etched in ancient symbols or strange, shifting sigils, powered by mana, ready to trigger at a moment's notice. It can be anchored to any space or object he chooses. But as Fen scans the dark, searching for Haxa, a flash of movement snaps him back into focus. A lightning-fast strike slams into his face with raw mana. Brutal, consecutive slashes follow immediately, cutting him deep. Fen is getting cornered and he knows it. Things are dire. He catches a blurred glimpse of his enemy in the dark. Charging forward, he throws a heavy punch with everything he has. But he only hits cold stone. Haxa is gone again. Then Haxa materializes out of thin air right behind him. Blade drawn, and Fen is just a split second too slow. The sword devil strikes, slicing across his face with ease. Fresh blood sprays, painting the cave walls a dark crimson. Fen leaps back instantly, trying to keep his distance. He can't sense Haxa at all. Not a trace. Not even a sound left behind. Now Fen realizes what's happening. Haxa is using a rune art, something called the Concealing Runa. It's a terrifying ability that completely wipes out his presence. He's basically a ghost in the dark. Fen rushes through the cave, desperately trying to track him down. He knows dodging attacks in this cramped, pitch-black space is suicide. It's incredibly difficult to react to someone he can't even see. Haxa keeps the pressure on, forcing Fen onto the defensive. Strike after strike, Fen's barely holding his own. Fen gets shoved back, but he forces himself to push forward again. He decides to activate his special eyes, his ace in the hole. Instantly, he starts catching the faint ripple of mana. Just a tiny, flickering trace. Haxa realizes too late, and in that split second, Fen moves. He lunges, grabbing Haxa by the throat. Then he slams him into the ground with everything he's got. Honestly, Haxa's stealth doesn't mean a thing anymore, because Fen has finally tapped into the truth eye, a gaze capable of seeing even the most hidden mana flows. Nothing stays concealed for long under that kind of pressure. Haxa is stunned, caught completely off guard by the sudden turn. He hits the floor so hard the earth beneath them cracks and shatters. Blood sprays from his lips as he realizes the gravity of the situation. After 40 years working as an assassin, he's in shock. Only two people have ever managed to track him by his mana. And Fan is now the second one to pull it off. But Fan doesn't care about his reputation or some old assassin grudge. He only wants to know where Kasarek is hidden. Fan grabs Haxa's arm, demanding the answer right then and there. Without a single second of hesitation, he severs the limb. Haxa lets out a blood-curdling scream of pure agony. Even missing an arm, the old man refuses to spill the secret. He knows the world thinks he's a monster, but he doesn't care. He can't die yet. He hasn't finished his mission. He is still sworn to protect the child of death. Near death, Haxa whispers an apology to Fan. Then, without warning, he triggers a hidden magic formation. Fan sees it too late. There's no time to stop it. Suddenly, a massive, powerful fist slams into him from out of nowhere. A creature rips through the magic portal to deliver the hit. Fan is sent flying backward, completely caught by the surge of power. That was one devastating blow. That thing emerging from the shadows. It's actually Haxa's own partner. The mummy-like man stares at Van, perfectly calm. He claims he's finally tracked down the one responsible. The person who killed Merkel. Van doesn't even blink, just casually threatens him back. Is he really trying to die, interrupting someone who's talking? Van eyes the fresh wounds on his body. Marks from the beast that mummy guy summoned earlier. Their deep blood is still dripping down his skin. That's when the mummy man starts really looking at Van, studying him closely. He spots the black marks creeping across Van's neck and eyes. And from those signs, he knows for sure. This is definitely the guy who killed Merkel. Haxa, still gasping and fighting through the agony, tries to warn him. He needs his partner to back off. Haxa tells Tease he has to be careful with Van. He can't even fathom how strong Van actually is. Van doesn't care. He just raises his hand. He points directly at the mummy man. His voice drops, heavy with lethal pressure. He asks if Tease is going to answer his question honestly. Tease just stands there, confused. He has no clue what Van is even talking about. But Haxa clears it up. Van is hunting for Kasarek. Tease bursts out laughing. He rips off his hat, introducing himself as Tease of the Burgiden group. He sounds so arrogant, completely full of himself. Tease declares that absolutely no one is going to tell Van where Kasarek is. Van hears that and realizes one thing immediately. Words aren't going to get him anywhere today. He explodes into motion, charging straight at Tease, right toward that massive beast standing behind him. Van winds up for a strike, going head-to-head with the monster. The beast lunges. They're both ready to finish this. Van's fist slams into the creature's attack. The impact creates a massive shockwave. But while they're locked in, Haxa sees his opening. He slips behind Van, quiet as a shadow. He swings his blade with everything he's got, trying to cut Van down from behind. But Van, he isn't going down that easily. With lightning reflexes, he leaps high into the air, dodging Haxa's blade and the beast's attack all at once. From above, Van readies his final, lethal strike. The strike finally slams dead center into the beast's body. Even with its hide hardened to survive the impact, Fan's punch pierces right through that defense like it is nothing. The energy coiled in his fist flares into a blinding beam, a laser blast that tears the creature apart until absolutely nothing remains. Fan lands steady, but he does not slow down for even a second. He immediately charges forward, hunting down Tease. Tease is stunned, watching the sheer scale of Fan's power. As a sorcerer, Tease shifts tactics, raising his hands to call out reinforcements. More wild monsters flood the area, ready to surround Fan. With his summoning runes, Tease tears creatures from a distant subspace. A dark dimension link directly to this one. These runes are dangerous. They let him store and release anything he wants. In an instant, dozens of ferocious monsters tear through the air. all of them ready to rip Fan to shreds. But Fan, he could not care less about how many stand in his way. He intends to cut them all down to the last beast. But here's the twist. While Fan is locked onto Tease, a sudden strike lands. It comes from Haxa. With his assassin skills, Haxa moves like a ghost. He lunges forward, aiming his blade directly at Fan's legs. The strike lands true, hitting both of Fan's legs at once, stopping him dead in his tracks. A terrifying roar echoes as all those beasts lunge at once, piling onto Fan, trying to crush him under their weight. Now, Fan is cornered, buried deep under a mountain of crazed monsters. Haxa laughs, satisfied to see Fan pinned down. Even while buried and caught in their jaws, Fan's spirit burns. He can barely move, but he glares at Tease with pure, cold hate. Tease watches that defiance and gets even more interested. He says he will make Fan a part of his elite assassin squad. But first, he plans to turn Fan into his personal slave. He reaches for his domination rune. You see, this power invades the target's subconscious mind. It shreds their identity and rewires them to follow the caster's every command. Fan is shocked. He did not realize Tease could wield two different runes. Before he can even react, Tease grabs his head. He starts chanting the domination spell. In a blink, Fan feels his consciousness dragged down into his own mind. Realizing the target is erasing their identities to reshape them, changing them into whatever the caster desires, Van is shocked. He realizes Tease can use two types of runes at once. Before he can even react, Tease grabs his head and begins casting a domination spell. In a split second, Van's consciousness is dragged into his own subconscious. Tease Young has spent years enslaving countless monsters. Using his domination rune, he feels absolutely invincible. He has never known failure, and he truly believes, no matter how strong an opponent might be, they are destined to become a slave under his rule. But this time, things are different. As Tease Young dives deep into Van's mind, he realizes something terrifying. Van's subconscious isn't some empty space. It is a hellscape fueled by thousands of years of pure vengeance. That burning hate is exactly what keeps Van between life and death. Van's psyche starts shredding Tez's domination magic apart. The shadows twist, manifesting as a monster with 1,000 faces coiling around Tez's body like a noose. Slowly, it begins to dismantle all of his power. Tease gasps, his face pale, drenched in cold sweat. The domination magic he relied on for so long is finally shattering inside that dark, twisted mind. Van appears, telling Tease he was far too rude, daring to peek into places he had no right to see. Tease stammers, calling Van something far worse than a monster. But Van isn't holding back anymore. He gathers his full strength, glowing with a laser-like intensity. Van strikes, obliterating Tez's body with pure light. His arm explodes, and Tease lets out a blood-curdling scream. He never expected such pain. He cannot believe a mere brat like Van could force him to suffer like this. Haxa watches in shock, jaw dropped. It's the first time he's seen Tez's brainwashing magic fail. Meanwhile, Van is still surrounded by vicious beasts. He stands up tall. To him, they are just noise. As his energy recovers, Van unleashes a wave of pitch black power that lifts every single monster into the air. With a focused stance and absolute resolve, Van lunges forward, landing a crushing punch directly into the lead monster's skull. The entire horde is pulverized into nothingness. The blast from his fist hits with such raw force that it tears through Hax's shop above the magic circle, blowing the building to pieces in a single instant. Both Haxe and Tease are blasted right out of the circle. Van emerges from the rubble, safe, but Haxa, he is left suffering from severe internal wounds. Van scans the area, spotting Tez's broken body, slumped on the ground, completely unconscious. Tez's answer dies with his opponent. He's past the point of talking. His gaze shifts, locking onto Haxa, who's barely clinging to life. Van grabs Haxa by the hair, giving him one final chance to speak. Tell me where Kasaruk is. Haxa is in agony, but he refuses to budge. Van lets go, his patience wearing thin. Time for a much harder approach. He prepares to force the information out of him. Suddenly, Orphan rushes in, desperate to stop him from going further. The other Death Children scramble to shield Haxa from harm. Haxa screams for the kids to run, to just leave him behind. But Orphan keeps begging, pleading with Van to spare him. Then shuts him down. He's not here to kill Haxa, just break him. He's going to keep up the torture until the guy starts talking. With a terrifying glare, Van warns the kids to back off. Get out of my way, he growls, not even blinking at them. But Hasia moves fast, slamming into Van, begging him to stop this. Orphan watches, shocked at Hasia's sudden show of courage. Van just brushes it off, annoyed, and tells the boy to step aside. Hasia keeps pleading, while Haxa bellows for them to flee. Van doesn't care. He treats these kids like they're just jokes. He shoves Hasia, sending him crashing hard into the dirt. Now Van prepares to teach the boy a real lesson. Orphan screams Hasia's name, terrified of what's about to happen. Van raises his fist. He's actually going to hurt the kid. But then Tessa's hand twitches, sparking a summoning spell. Van's attention snaps away. What is that? A magic circle tears open, and razor-sharp tentacles lash out. Tease is aiming them straight for Van's throat. Van's eyes widen in disbelief. Tease is actually still alive. He tries to hold his ground, but the blades are too fast. They tear into him, shredding his body, leaving no room to dodge. But Van realizes in a flash, this isn't for him. It's a distraction. The real target is the kids and Haxa. In one blink, the lethal strike claims every single one of them. Van sees it all, and he goes absolutely berserk. Moving with terrifying speed, he lunges to hunt Tease down. But he's too late. Tease is already sinking into a void. He slips into another dimension right before Van can grab him. Tease vanishes, leaving Van clutching at empty air. Safe in his pocket dimension, Tease breathes a sigh of relief. He's sure that everyone he just targeted is finally finished. He immediately chases after Tease. But it is too late. Tease escapes into another dimension. Van tries to reach him, but the man has already vanished. Tease slips away into that other world. He feels a rush of relief, confident that everyone will return. Any risk of leaking intel on Kasaruk, he wiped it out. Gone, obliterated. Now his only mission is to hunt down that one sorcerer, the man named Van. But Tez's sense of safety vanishes the second Van forces his way in, right into his own dimension. Panic hits Tease hard. He can't believe Van actually broke the boundary. It shouldn't have been possible. To Tease, the figure standing before him looks like an angel of death, ready to end his life. It turns out Van exploited the tiny gap left when Tease entered. A calculated move. Before the rift could seal, Van jammed his magic inside and forced entry. He is absolutely fed up with Tease playing these dimension games. The guy is sick of it. Tease freezes. Total, suffocating terror takes over. Then makes it clear he won't kill him just yet. Too many questions left to answer. But first, Van has a special punishment in store. A trip to hell. He triggers his gluttony pocket, a predatory void that devours living beings. Van's face contorts into a massive, gaping maw. A long, thick tongue lashes out, binding Tease tight. Tease screams in hysteria, fighting tooth and nail to avoid that hell. But his cries get silenced instantly. That giant mouth swallows him whole. Once finished, Van's face shifts back to normal. He steps out of the dimension, but the toll hits him immediately. That technique, it drains his mana reserves. Brutally, he knows now he has to be careful using that again. As he clears the gate, his body just gives out. He collapses, completely drained. He scans the ruins, wondering if anyone else survived this. Probably not, but he did secure his hostage, the only guy who can lead him straight to Kasaruk. He's got the info he needs. Just as he's about to leave, a voice echoes through the rubble. It's Haxa. barely holding on, but somehow still alive. Haxa gasps that Orphan is still breathing, begging Van to save the kid. He gives up the location, a wasteland buried in the wreckage of their battle. Suddenly, a man stands over Haxa's broken body. He looks over the carnage, watching everything unfold. He takes one look at the wreckage and concludes a massive fight just tore through this area. His partner then picks up the severed arm, Bergen's arm, confirming that the guy was completely dismembered, utterly annihilated. The man is stunned. He just cannot wrap his head around it. How could anyone take down two Ordotus executives at once? It's just not possible. He calls the attacker a complete madman, demanding his partner figure out if there's any trail left to follow. His partner checks and says the trace is still there, though it's fading fast. He adds that Van was last spotted at this spot just yesterday. Now watch this. The blindfolded man summons his shadows. Raven shadows emerge directly from his own silhouette. He orders them to report this mess to Kesaruk immediately. He'll track the target down personally with his partner. The ravens take the order and vanish in a heartbeat. Turning to Haxa's cold body, the man stares down, wondering if this was the ending Haxa actually wanted. He dismisses it as a hollow death, completely devoid of meaning. Meanwhile, in the freezing mountain range, Orphan slowly drifts back to consciousness inside a dark cave. He jolts awake, eyes wide with pure panic. Van is sitting nearby, calmly asking if he's finally back with us. Orphan is disoriented, demanding to know where they are. Then it hits him. His memories come flooding back. He panics, frantically asking where Haxa and the other kids went. Van just gives it to him cold. Everyone is gone. They're all dead. Orphan. The news crushes him, and he refuses to believe a word of it. He's sobbing blood, screaming that Vin has to be wrong. Orphan tries to force himself up, insisting he needs to go back, that he has to save them because there is no way they died. Van stops him right there, his voice like ice. He confirms he was the one who buried their bodies himself. Orphan collapses to the ground, breaking down in hysterics. He just can't accept this nightmare is his new reality. Surely they didn't just die like that. Van then stops Orphan cold. He speaks plainly, stating that he was the one who buried those children. Hearing that, Orphan collapses. She starts crying hysterically, completely broken, refusing to accept the reality right in front of her. He keeps repeating that this just can't be happening, demanding to know why Finn saved him from that hell. In his despair, Orphan yells that he should have been left to die, just left there to rot with all the others. He begs for some kind of explanation, but Fan just says it coldly he only saved Orphan because he actually needs something from him. Right then, the memory of his final talk with Haxa hits him. Before the old man died, they argued about this. Fan had questioned why Haxa was so obsessed with saving the boy. He didn't think Orphan could survive out here alone. But Haxa was firm, explaining the truth behind it all. Orphan holds secret info on Kesaruk and the Tiz organization, making his life way too valuable. Haxa had begged Van to get the boy somewhere safe, still convinced Orphan had a real shot at making it. Even when Finn pushed, asking what to do if he knew nothing, Haxa didn't hesitate with his answer. He told Finn he was free to do whatever was necessary, even ending him if it came down to that. Fan finally agreed, and Haxa used his last breath to beg for the boy's life before he passed. Then he was gone. Back in the cave, Orphan is still sobbing on the ground, but Fan snaps, grabbing him by the throat and hauling him up. He mutters an apology he can't afford to wait anymore. No more stalling, no more games. He needs to know exactly where Kesaruk is. Still shattered, Orphan finally chokes out an answer. Kesaruk is likely hiding out in the Farkan Empire. He explains how Kesaruk last visited Haxa before he vanished, saying he had a direct order from the Farkan king himself. Fan demands a physical description of the man. Orphan tries to explain, but it's not simple. Kasaruk looks different every time you see him, probably thanks to the runes he wields. When Fen presses for more on those runes, Orphan recalls what Haxa warned him about long ago. Kasaruk is a mage carrying 3 innate runes, a freak of nature, almost unheard of across the entire continent. Fen freezes, realization hitting him like a physical blow. This guy isn't just some ordinary threat. He lets go of the boys' throat time to move. They can't afford to waste a single second more. As they get ready to leave, Orphan asks where they are heading. Van explains that he gave his word to Haxa. He promised to get Orphan to a safe village. It is the price for the intel Haxa shared. Orphan is stunned. He realizes Haxa made that deal just to save him. Van tells Orphan to get up. They need to move. Orphan stands and follows Van out of the cave. As they step out, the harsh sunlight hits them. It is blinding. Orphan has to shield his face. He waits a moment for his eyes to adjust. Outside, a massive stone stands tall. Van says it marks where he buried the kids. He laid them all to rest beneath that rock. Orphan asks why he used such a giant stone. Van explains it is for protection. He can't have beasts or monsters disturbing their grave. Those kids were innocent. They deserve their peace. Van gives Orphan a moment to say his goodbyes. Orphan approaches the stone slowly. He touches the cold surface and starts to sob. The grief brings the past rushing back. Memories of Haxa and the others flood his mind. He remembers them standing beside Haxa. Haxa was broken, tortured by the order of Tiz. Kasaruk was there, mocking Haxa for running away. He sneered at Haxa for playing nurse to these orphans. He told him he could never escape his dark past. The cruelty in his voice was chilling. Haxa, even bleeding, begged them to spare the kids. He only cared about their safety. Kasaruk just gave him a cold warning. His duties were being tripled. No more running. That was the price to keep the orphanage alive. After Kasaruk left, the scene shifted. Haxa smiled through the pain, vowing to keep them safe. Orphan recalls those simple, quiet moments. They were just kids living in a tiny piece of heaven, laughing together like a real family. Now back in reality, Orphan's grip tightens. He digs his fingers into the stone until he bleeds. Pure, unadulterated rage and sorrow burn through him. He looks at Van, voice shaking. He has to know if Van plans to kill Kasaruk. Van answers with a cold, steady gaze. He will end him. Driven by hate, Orphan demands to join the fight. He swears he will tear Kasaruk apart with his own 2 hands. Elsewhere, deep in the mountains, a man kneels down. He sniffs the ground hard, tracking every single scent. He is the partner of that first pursuit group. He reports that Fan passed through this area hours ago. The trail is still fresh, lingering around a jagged rock. Near a cave, he realizes something. This is big news. It means they are finally closing in on their target. Cut to a man climbing stone stairs, heading straight for the inner sanctum of the base. Calm, steady steps until he stops in his tracks. Before a massive door covered in runes, he knocks. Then he pushes it open. Inside, he doesn't waste a second delivering the report, facing his leader directly. Kasaruk sits there, relaxed, torso bare. He looks completely unbothered, like nothing could ever faze him. Watch his reaction. Here is where the mood shifts. In a cold, icy town, Kasaruk says he already knows. Merkel and his group failed, completely. He looks down on Merkel, calls him useless trash. Raising a man like that only for him to stick to petty crime. And then dying such a pathetic, shameful death. The subordinate keeps talking, voice shaking slightly. Haxa and Bergenton are dead too. That gets a rise out of him. Kasaruk shifts, sitting straight up. The tension is real now. The killer remains a total mystery. But 2 more trackers are already out hunting the trail. Kasaruk speaks, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Too many unexpected variables are rooting his plans. The subordinate suggests the Ordo ethos might be behind this. They have been watching their moves for a long time. Kasaruk does not dismiss the idea. But something feels off, something different. He concludes a third party is likely meddling in this. Without wasting a breath, he grabs a rune scroll. He burns it, and it erupts into a glowing portal. Things have reached a critical breaking point. No more mistakes. No more outside interference. He orders the two trackers to stay on high alert. Even if they find the killer, they hold their ground. The subordinate bows his head low, ready to ask his final question. Is Kesarek finally going to step in and take care of this himself? Kesarek just refuses. He makes it clear. Something like that is way beneath him, in a heartbeat. Shimmering armor starts wrapping around his body through a sudden manifestation. Glowing runes everywhere. He declares his next target is crystal clear. The Farkhand Kingdom. Every other small matter is left to his subordinates. Suddenly, the scene shifts. We are at the Farkhand Kingdom, a mountain nation locked away, hidden, cold, and incredibly difficult to reach. Kesarek arrives and the castle guards immediately step up. They demand to know why he is here. Kesarek skips the pleasantries and asks for the king directly. They tell him the king has been waiting for his arrival. They head inside, walking down the long castle halls until they reach the grand throne room. Once there, Kesarek dips his head slightly. Just a formality, he apologizes for keeping the king waiting. The king just laughs it off, totally relaxed. He acts like it is not a problem at all. Then he cuts right to it and asks for the job results. Kesarek explains that the core mages of the Aran Kingdom are gone. Wiped out just like he asked, everything is handled. He confirms the threat from that side is officially dead. Then he immediately demands the payment they promised him. But the Farkhand King, his expression changes completely. That smile of his feels fake, hollow. He says something shifted. There is a little problem, he claims. He starts going on about the kingdom's tough conditions. Surrounded by steep mountains, starving for resources, losing their wealthiest lands in that war against Aran. Kesarek reminds him that is exactly why he hired the Tiz organization, to get rid of those key Aran mages, to take back those lands with almost zero loss. Now listen, here is where the king tries to play his game. The king admits the Tiz group did their job perfectly, a flawless execution. But then he stands up from his throne and makes his move. He claims hiring a mercenary group as cruel as them. It would be a massive scandal if the public ever found out. He even pulls a face, acting disgusted just talking about them. He really wants to play the victim here. Right on cue, dozens of elite soldiers and mages swarm in. They appear from every side, blocking every exit. The throne room door slammed shut, no way out. Kesarek stays calm, instantly reading the room and the king's intent. He asks point blank, is the king planning to silence him to cover his tracks? The king just lets out this insane, manic laugh and admits the truth. From the very start, he never had any intention of paying up. Not a single coin. He even brags about the massive fortune he blew on his throne room, making it look grand enough to match the greatest empires on earth. Instead of showing any fear, Kesarek just starts laughing right back at him. And let me tell you, that laugh is ice cold. It fills the room, making the air feel heavy, suffocating. The king sneers, asking if Kesarek has finally lost his mind. Kesarek just relaxes, casually letting out a sliver of his pressure. He says he isn't even surprised by the petty greed of a small-time ruler. He admits he was way too careless trusting this whole setup. The king drops a warning, don't even think about fighting back. He explains that 30 of Farkhand's best mages are surrounding them right now, and the entire castle crawling with his elite soldiers. He even claims the cost of summoning those mages counts as payment enough. Kesarek just stays calm, telling him it is already far too late for that. He says the king's pathetic actions have just triggered his worst memories. Then, the man who has been by his side this whole time steps up. He places a hand on Kesarek's back and speaks quietly, reporting that the artificial mana transfer process is finally complete. At that, Kesarek lets his energy rip absolute, full power. His voice goes cold as he makes a declaration to the room. Whether they are small-time kings or emperors, nobles are all the same. Just like that, Keswick snaps his fingers. He states with deadly calm that the kingdom of Farkan is finished. He plans to seize the entire kingdom as payment for his services. The king just laughs at him, not seeing a single thing change. He thinks Keswick is just bluffing to save face. But then, a blinding light erupts right behind him. He turns his head to look outside, and his face goes pale. The sky has shifted colors, turning into something completely unnatural. Descending from the heavens, a massive structure takes shape. It's all over now. He even declares he'll take the kingdom for himself. Consider it payment for his services. The king hears this and laughs. He doesn't see a single thing changing. He thinks Keswick is just bluffing. But a second later, a blinding light erupts behind him. He turns to look outside. The sky has shifted colors. A massive construction appears in the sky. It's monstrous. Then clenches his fist. A statue emerges, so massive it defies all common sense. It slowly descends, looming directly over the castle. The court mages scramble to shield the king, but everything happens far too fast. The moment that statue touches the ground, the entire castle grounds are buried beneath it. A blinding light erupts from the center. And in an instant, the palace and everything inside is gone without a trace. Moments later, Keswick's subordinate cheers, calling out to him, reporting that absolutely no one survived the blast. Everything is wiped out, completely leveled. Keswick then reaches down to the dirt, picking something up, and mutters that things, which are unclean, will never truly be beautiful. He lifts the king's crown, staring at it with intense focus. His subordinate speaks up, offering to guide Keswick toward their next objective. But Keswick suggests that they just walk there this time. He looks up at the sky, remarking that the day feels so incredibly beautiful. This powerful man with black hair and silver glasses is the true leader of the Tiz organization. The scene shifts back to the moment Orphan begs Fan to let her come along. Burning with rage, Orphan declares she wants to destroy Keswick once and for all. Fan turns away, telling the girl she has clearly lost her mind. But Orphan insists she cannot just continue living as if nothing happened. Fan coldly explains that it would be far better for Orphan to live out her days in peace. He makes it clear he has no intention of protecting her, and that he might even kill her himself if she gets in his way. Orphan fires back. Fan is free to do whatever he wants because she doesn't care about her life anymore. Fan starts walking forward, mentioning that he is heading to the Farkan kingdom. He asks if Orphan really intends to follow him there. Orphan firmly retorts that Fan is free to kill her anytime she slows him down. Fan then finally gives in, saying they leave this very instant. That night, Timoto and his brother watch Fan and Orphan from a distance. Timoto is thrilled, thinking they've finally managed to track Fan down. His brother reminds him that Keswick explicitly ordered them to wait patiently. But Timoto just grins, convinced that this is their perfect chance to capture Fan and claim the reward. To cheer him on, a favor for a favor, he asks his brother for his take, and the brother just nods. Whatever he decides, he is following him. Hearing that, Timoto feels pretty satisfied. He unleashes his energy, declaring they will keep on tracking Fan, shadowing him close, waiting for the perfect opening to finish him off. As they trek through the woods, Fan starts feeling something off. He asks Orphan, "How many times have we passed that same massive tree?" Orphan says that makes 3 times already. Fan realizes it immediately. They are lost. Orphan starts to panic, wondering if they stumbled into some cursed forest. He finds it impossible, but the fear is real. Fan asks what is actually going on. Orphan finally speaks up. He remembers a tale Haxa told him when he was just a kid. A story about a mysterious, forbidden stretch of woods. Haxa said the mountain where they opened their shop was once a monster den, and the entrance, it was known as the Moor Forest. The legend goes that anyone who wanders into the Moor Forest never comes out. Fan asks if he is really suggesting they walked right into that nightmare. He brushes it off as just a fairy tale. But Orphan is dead serious. He insists the forest is crawling with monsters. Right as he finishes, a tree nearby suddenly snaps open dozens of eyes. It turns toward them. Fan freezes, shocked, while Orphan clamps his hand over his mouth to stay quiet. The tree monster grins and raises a massive arm to strike. Before the blow lands on Orphan, Finn yanks him back. They leap away just as a heavy fist slams into the ground. Landing, Finn shoves Orphan aside to get him out of the kill zone. Now watch this. He clenches his fist, and in a blink, he is right in front of it. With one brutal strike, he shatters the creature. Even with branches acting as a shield, the monster stands no chance against that force. After taking down that first threat, Finn shouts for Orphan. He tells him to hide if he wants to stay alive. Fan lifts his head, and everywhere he looks, he sees even more tree monsters closing in. In a blink, he is standing right in front of the beast. With one single punch, he shatters the creature, even as it tries to block him with its wooden branches. It doesn't matter. After taking down the first one, Vin calls out to Orphan. He tells her to hide if she wants to stay alive. Van lifts his head. He sees a whole forest of these tree monsters closing in. Life stirs, surrounding him on all sides. He can barely believe it. He once thought the Orphan stories were just fairy tales. The monsters shriek. And then they launch their attack, all at once. The next morning, Fan is seen finishing off the final beast. He drops it with a single, brutal punch. Once it is over, he calls for Orphan to step out of hiding. Orphan emerges, as wide as the sea of scattered monster carcasses. She rushes over to ask if Fan is all right. Fan says he is fine, but there is something off about this place. Something strange is happening. He realizes his mana is draining way faster than normal. It is as if the forest itself is drinking his energy. Fan's vision starts to blur. He realizes he is beginning to hallucinate. What kind of forest did he even wander into? Just as he thinks that, someone drops down right behind him. Fan spins around, and there stands Tomoto. Tomoto just smiles, telling him it is already too late. He coats his hands in mana and lunges straight at Fan. Tomoto fires off a direct strike, aiming a heavy punch right at Fan's chest. But even now, Finn manages to dodge the hit, though he is completely caught off guard by the guy showing up. With his mind clouded by hallucinations, Finn cannot process the situation. Before he can retreat, Tomoto moves in fast. He stomps on Fan's neck, pinning his arm and locking him down. Fan is paralyzed. The hallucinations are draining every ounce of his power. Seeing him like this, Tomoto laughs, saying this is easier than he thought. Tomoto reveals he is an executive for TIEs, in charge of battlefield ops. He mocks Fan, saying a mage should never waste mana so carelessly. Mana is a precious resource, he sneers. Fan hears the taunt and his temper snaps. He calls Tomoto arrogant to his face. Fan lifts his free hand and slams a massive strike into Tomoto's chest. The force is so violent that the ground around them cracks and shatters. But the result, it is completely unexpected. He flashes a dismissive smirk. A real wizard should never waste mana so carelessly, he says. Here's where the real fight kicks off. Since mana is such a precious, vital resource, Fan hears that taunt and his temper just explodes. He calls Tomoto a total arrogant brat, lifting his other hand. He slams a massive blow straight into Tomoto's chest. The force is insane. The ground underneath them cracks and shatters. But the result, completely unexpected. Tomoto doesn't even budge. Not a scratch on him. He just offers a thin smile, acknowledging. That Van's attack was actually kind of surprising. But then, he dismisses it entirely, claiming that Van's real power is nothing compared to the monsters he has faced before. Van is stunned. His strikes did absolutely nothing. Tomoto just calls him way too weak, then lets him go like he is trash. Right as Van is released, Mongo appears at his side and lands a heavy blow, slamming into Van with such brutal force it feels like his bones are snapping. Van goes flying and hits the ground hard, a bone-jarring impact. Now watch this. The cruelty of these two is just getting started. Tomoto stands there calm, asking Mongo about Orpin. Mongo replies that he knocked Orpin out and just dumped him off to the side. Hearing that, Tomoto praises him and, with a sneer, adds that they can have their fun with Orpin later. Van slowly drags himself up, severely wounded, realizing his internal mana reserves are almost completely dry. In this spot, Tomoto reveals they were actually ordered to just follow Van quietly without acting recklessly. But according to Tomoto, that kind of approach is just plain cowardice. Mongo agrees, declaring that they are not some weak dogs, but true, powerful hunters. Tomoto adds that they also need to get revenge for the deaths of Hakusei and Bergenton, the two executives taken out earlier. Without a second of warning, Van suddenly lunges at Tomoto, throwing another punch, but Tomoto again easily blocks it with just his forearm. Van is deeper in shock now. His attacks still cannot break through. In a blur, Mongo moves, slamming a massive fist into Van's gut, which makes him cough up blood in pain. The next hit sends Van reeling, crashing into a tree trunk, until his vision finally fades and he loses consciousness. On the edge of darkness, Van cracks his eyes open just as Mongo moves for another kill shot. He tries to fight back with every bit of strength left, but before his fist reaches the target, Tomoto steps in, stopping the strike easily with his foot. Their speed and power, it hits Van hard. He finally realizes the massive gap in their strength, and the nightmare is far from over. Van puts everything he has left into that final strike. But before his fist can even connect, Tomoto shows up and blocks the entire attack just by using his leg. Their speed and raw power, it makes Van realize something. The gap between their true abilities is just massive. Then, the true origins of Tomoto and Mongo's power finally surface. Both descend from a lineage gifted with the ancient, raw strength of the legendary Cataphracto tribe, an ancient clan feared throughout history as soldiers, encased in perfect, impenetrable armor. Every member inherits only to master runes, the Armor Rune and the Wheatblade Rune. The Armor Rune lets them manifest a mana-based protective layer that is practically impossible to break. Meanwhile, the Wheatblade Rune channels a level of destructive offense that hits like a meteor. That dual legacy makes them the ultimate symbol of defense and offense, practically untouchable on any battlefield. After holding off the attack, Tomoto pulls back, clearing space for Mongo to unleash another savage, crushing blow. Mongo strikes Van again, sending him spiraling through the air. This time, Tomoto fully activates his own Armor Rune. He wraps his entire body in a dark, shimmering layer of dense mana. Then he tells Mongo to stop playing around and just end this fight for good. Tomoto claims he came fully prepared, having heard that Finn killed Hakusei and Bergenton. But he sounds honestly disappointed. Finn's current strength isn't matching his high expectations at all. At that same moment, Mongo triggers his Wheatblade Rune too, forming massive, glowing gauntlets of pure mana over his hands. Now, they are truly ready to finish Finn off. Meanwhile, Finn lies on the ground, feeling the very forest around him. Draining his mana, he realizes his Annihilation Fish technique has hit its limit from the massive mana drain. Finn hates using weapons that cost him his own lifespan. But trapped in this corner, he really has no other choice. Tomoto mocks Finn again, telling Mongo to leave only Fann's head behind so he can bring it back as proof to Kesaruk. Mongo steps forward, promising to end this right now. But at that critical moment, Fan slowly hauls himself back up. Breath ragged, he asks Timoto if he really just mentioned the name Kesaruk. That one name confirms it. These two are definitely part of the Tisa mercenary group. But strangely, Fan takes that as good news. Fan starts leaking a terrifying amount of energy, and in a chilling voice declares that he is only just beginning. He's going to ask just one more time. He demands they reveal Kesaruk's location and makes them a promise. Answer honestly, and he'll let them walk away with their lives. Hearing that, Timoto immediately explodes in a fit of rage. The sheer nerve of Fan to just toss his master's name around. He declares that weaklings like Fan have no right to speak it. Without a second thought, Timoto charges straight at Fan. Seeing the incoming attack, Fan releases a massive wave of energy. He stretches his hand forward. With a voice cold as ice, Fan says people from their organization never learn. They never seem to understand the reason behind anything. Timoto doesn't care. He keeps pushing the attack regardless. But before he can even reach Fan, a terrifying creature suddenly appears. A many-headed monstrosity manifesting right beside him. The beast opens its jaws, spitting out two jagged daggers. The blades radiate a bone-chilling aura as Fan catches them. He grips the twin daggers, his expression deathly calm. With a sharp glare, he tells Timoto he's wasted his final chance. Watch this, the gap between them just became a canyon. Fan shifts into a lethal stance, ready to end this right here. He warns Timoto, don't regret what happens next. The blades are the death spirit daggers. They're the manifestation of the third armament. The moment he sees them, Timoto slams on the brakes. He feels the killing intent radiating from the steel. He finally realizes Fan is about to unleash absolute hell. In a blur of motion, Fan lunges forward, swinging low. He slashes right toward Timoto's legs. The strike pierces through the mono armor like it's paper. Timoto screams, stunned that his defenses failed so easily. At that exact second, Mongo tries to jump Fan from behind. Fan effortlessly dodges, leaping backward with grace. Before he even lands, Fan cuts deep into Mongo's arm. Mongo cries out to his brother, he's been hit. Timoto is spiraling, confused by this sudden shift. Fan was nearly dead moments ago, but now he's stronger than ever. He can't wrap his head around the type of rune Fan is using. With a serious tone, Timoto swallows his pride. He apologizes for underestimating Fan, admitting he judged him wrong. But that hesitation lasts only a heartbeat. He floods the area with mana, signaling Mongo to join him. They launch a combined assault, convinced that in the end, they'll be the ones left standing over his body. One after another, the bandits crumple as their mana gets drained dry. They hit the dirt hard, out cold, completely overwhelmed by his strength. Nothing has changed at all. Fan raises both daggers the second he sees them charging. He moves like a flash of lightning, suddenly appearing beside Timoto. A clean strike deep into the thigh. In one continuous motion, he slices up Mongo too. Before they even react, he darts past both brothers. Blood sprays instantly from their wounds. A furious Timoto spins around, calling Fan a filthy rat. But he freezes. Fan is already gone. Out of nowhere, Fan drops in front of Mongo. One kick to the legs, and he loses his balance. Fan brings his blade down, ready to finish this. Timoto lunges in just in time, shoving his brother aside. He catches Fan's blade with his bare hand. Timoto smirks, thinking he's got him, and orders Mongo to strike. But nothing happens. Absolute silence. Confused, Timoto calls out for his brother, only to see Mongo collapse hard onto the ground. He can't even move a single muscle. His gauntlet starts to fade away into nothingness. Timoto's eyes widen in sheer panic. He tries to turn, but his own legs give out. He feels it now, his mana being drained dry. That's when he spots them, tiny heads crawling from his wounds. They're gnawing right through his mono armor. Timoto is spiraling, trying to process this nightmare. He's never seen anything this twisted in his life. Fan stands there with a cold stare, asking if something's wrong. Just checking if his body can't move anymore. Fan explains that his death spirit daggers are haunted. Spirits live in them, and they are starving for mana. Every single wound leaves those spirits attached. They keep gnawing away until the mana is completely gone. They won't stop until they've had their fill. Tomoto screams as they feast on his life force. He begs them to stop, crying that it's his mana. Moments later, the change in them is terrifying. They're shriveled, gaunt, weak, lifeless, nothing like the powerhouses they were. Fan watches the transformation with total indifference. He wonders if this is their true form. Just fakes boosting themselves with stolen energy all this time. Tomoto weakly denies it, pleading for Fan to give it back. They've collapsed right onto the ground. He explains that their mana is actually artificial, the gift from Kesaruk, given to them by his hand alone. Van hears this. He gets curious, asking if he really means their mana is man-made, created completely through artificial means. Van demands the truth, reminding him of a harsh reality. With their bodies as fragile as they are right now, they simply won't last long. Tomoto hates hearing that. He insists it's just not true. He refuses to accept it. The scene shifts back to the past. We arrive at the territory of the Cataphracto tribe. Skulls and human bones litter the ground everywhere you look. The atmosphere is thick with dread. Kesaruk walks out from a building. He's accompanied by a local man. The man says he hopes to work with the T's group again later. Just then, Kesaruk spots something. Two young children tied tightly to a tree. The man explains how these two were born. Their bodies can't store mana naturally at all. To the tribe, they're nothing but a disgrace. He claims that even though they have survived this long, all 5 years of their short lives, they likely won't survive much longer. He even calls them weak trash, not worth a single second of anyone's time. But Kesaruk, he's suddenly interested, asking to take them both. The man gives him the go-ahead without a second thought. 10 years pass, and we shift to a village. It's burning, bodies scattered across the ground. A sign that something far darker is beginning. Back then, after the slaughter, a man approaches. He walks right up to Tomoto and Mongo, pointing out something cold. They just wiped out an innocent village. That figure speaking, it is Kesaruk. Their leader demands an explanation from Tomoto. Why carry out a massacre like this? With a calm expression, Tomoto gives his answer. Every time he sees people this weak and useless, he is reminded of who he used to be. With a thin, chilling smile, he speaks up. If not for Kesaruk, he says, they would both be living out their lives as trash. Tomoto admits it plainly. He absolutely hates weakness. That deep disgust, he can only scrub it away by killing them himself. Hearing that, Kesaruk just scoffs, cold as ice. He tells Tomoto this whole act is just pure, unadulterated self-hatred, just his own reflection staring back at him. He warns Tomoto, cut this habit out right now. Hurting your own body, that is not beautiful. Not even close. Tomoto takes the order, not a single word of protest. Then, back to the present. Back to the chaos. Tomoto screams at the top of his lungs, swearing that he and his brother are done being treated like absolute trash. Even with their bodies wasted and weak, Tomoto and Mongo don't hesitate. They charge at Fan, but Fan, he just closes his eyes. He moves in, no fear, no hesitation. In a blur, he slices through them with his death spirit daggers. Utterly merciless. In his final moments, Tomoto chokes out Kesaruk's name. Then he goes black. Fan walks right past their bloodied bodies. His face is stone, unmoving. He mutters that the weakest dogs are always the ones that bark the loudest. But the second he says it, his own body hits its limit. He collapses hard onto the dirt, completely out. They've completely lost consciousness.